Hi, I'm Dan. This is my 2019 KTM 500 EXCF that I'm going to take on a 1,000 kilometre trip around the Trans-European Trail in North England through 4 national parks. Take 3 or 4 days to pick my way around. A trip for Sado lockdown loving losers, as one of my friends coined it. But still I can't wait. So I'm just going to give you a quick 5-minute tour of the bike, let you know how I've prepared it for long distance, because it's not the first time I've done it, but it is the first time that I've ever decided to just go it alone. So starting at the bottom, let's begin. Tyres, first things first. They are Moto Z Tractionator tyres. They are desert racing tyres from Australia, and they are without doubt the hardest wearing knobbly tyre I've ever used. I've got a set of them from last year that I've been through Europe and Morocco on, and they've got 4,000 kilometres on them and they've still got loads of tread. But I've put newer ones on for this trip. They're really good. They're not great on slippery tarmac, but then what knobbly tyre is, but they'll last forever, great tyre. Inside them this time I've got mousses, or mousse, rally mousse, rather than rather than inner tubes, because I don't want to be carrying the extra weight of the inner tubes with me and I don't want to risk a puncture. I've got nitro mousse in there. Nitro mousse are the only manufacturer that I could find that published on their website the specific mousses and the dimensions that you'd want depending on the tyre you've got, and they actually had those tyres, so that kept it really simple for me. Yeah, I've used them before, they're working well, so we'll see how they go on this UK trip. Next up, the Chervis belly pan. The belly pan does come on the bike, as you're probably aware. It's just not very big, it's not quite as big as this one, not as robust. I did try and get a larger aluminium one, but it didn't arrive on time, so I've gone with the Chervis. Foot pegs. I did have a set of 5mm lower foot pegs, because the advice is go with lower foot pegs if you're quite a large chap, and I'm not the smallest bloke. But I ran them for a while and they started to rust, they didn't look good, and they actually snapped the springs for whatever reason, so I put the standard ones back on, and the standard ones are actually longer, which just allow you to control the bike that little bit better because they stick out, so quite pleased actually. I forgot how good they were, so they're straight back on. Gearing, when you're doing TET work or you're going on long trail rides, you do end up doing quite a bit of road work, so the road needs to be comfortable, and I like bikes and I like travelling by them and I like the road. I like being on a twisty road, so I normally try and go with quite high gearing. This one is a 14 at the front, 48 at the back. I find that will it's good for the low gear work when you're off-road, but also it makes the roads fun. It's quite capable of doing 70. I mean, it'll go a lot faster if you want it to, but I just don't want to. I'm middle-aged, I just like pooling along, so 14, 48, that's fine for me. Works like a charm. Moving towards the back, I've got a Cush hub in here. That was a find on Facebook Marketplace from an older KTM. It was a Supermoto with a big wide rim. I bought that for next to nothing, brought it back, stripped the wheel out, took it, had it relaced and put back on an original XL KTM rim. Makes a huge difference. It's one of the mods that I really recommend that people do if you're going to do a lot of road work on the KTMs. It really smooths them out. Loads of people, you'll read it on loads of forums, they talk about getting your bike suspended correctly for your weight. This is the first time I've done it, and I've been riding since I was 7 years old, so didn't really take the advice, probably should have done. I really didn't think it was that necessary because I don't go particularly fast, I'm not jumping it when I'm away. But this time I've got 1 spring weight in the front, and I've gone 2 up on the back, and that's because I'm not particularly light. And with my adventure kit, RST adventure kit, really heavy stuff. I've got motocross boots, a decent lid, and then I have luggage that comes around the bike. And with all of that on, I did find that the bike was sitting quite low in its stroke. So it didn't look good, didn't feel great, but now it does. Works a charm. Coming up the bike in the airbox, I normally have different filters depending on what I'm doing. In the UK, it's just going to be a standard filter, but a tip. I do carry in here a tow rope, so I can get out of trouble, or I can pull a friend if we get stuck. I also have a tyre iron with the correct size nut for the rear wheel so I can quickly adjust the chain. And I also keep a really good multi-tool in there. Surprising the amount of times that you need a decent knife or a pair of pliers or something, so there's a nice multi-tool in there. And I also keep a survival blanket. Hopefully I'll never need it. I'm probably more likely to need it in the UK while camping because it can get a bit cold. But that's in there anyway. Coming further up, gaiters. Got some spring protectors, fork protectors here. I guess not really needed in the UK, but if you do find yourself going over sand or dusty conditions, then you can actually get quite a bit of dust and crud stuck up there. I don't really want any trouble with the seals going, so I've just put them on. They've been on there for a while. People seem to rate them quite highly. They've worked absolutely fine for me, so all good there. Next up, tank range. So on the 2019, I could get between 80 and 100 miles depending on how hard I was trying. And for the UK that's fine, you're really never that far away from a petrol station. But I want to go further. I don't want to be looking for a petrol station every 60 or 70 miles, looking at the GPS, wondering where I am and how I can get back to civilization. I'm not interested in that. I also do longer trips on this than the one I'm contemplating at the moment. So that's an IMS 17 litre tank, which effectively doubles the range. So if you take it easy and you've got double the amount of fuel in there, you really can get on for about 200 miles. It's pretty good. And it fits with the original fairing and whatnot, and the original plastic, so I quite like that. It's good for me. Coming further up the bike, rally seat. It's a higher seat because I'm 6'4", 6'5"-ish. So I've got a higher seat and it's slightly wider, so it's the Seat Concepts Tall Comfort. If I was doing it again, I would probably get the XL, the extra wide one. I've had an extra wide seat on another bike and it really did make the difference. By the time you've done about a few hundred kilometres a day on this, you can start to feel it at the end of the day, but for the trip that I'm going to go on, it won't really matter. It's taller, it's more comfortable, definitely recommend it. Okay, next, coming around to the front, headlight. Okay, so I don't really want to be riding at night, but the headlight on the KTM is pitiful from the factory. Everybody knows it's just an afterthought to get an MOT. If I was in America, I'd have gone with a Rigid Industries or a Baja Designs. But they're a bit harder to get in the UK and they're incredibly expensive. At Cherbis, European brand, you can get this one for a really reasonable price. I've hooked it up, just needed a single connector. It's gone straight onto the front of the bike and I've hooked it up to the normal light switch. But because it doesn't have a dip, on dipped beam I have it turned off and on high beam I have it turned on. And it's incredibly bright. It's so bright that when I'm riding at night and I have another rider in front of me with his own headlight on, my light casts a shadow in his headlight beam. I'm not joking, it's that bright. Absolutely fantastic for night riding. Next, indicators. Alright, so we're on the UK roads. It's probably not cool, but I don't care. I'd rather be a bit safer. That's the standard indicators on the front. And on the back I've got some small LED ones. I put small LED ones on the back because the back's a little bit more exposed when you tip it over on rocks and whatnot. These actually generally don't hit the deck because the side of your bars take the impact of the side of the tank. So standard on the front, LEDs on the back. Works a treat, and I've obviously wired up the standard handlebar control. Some switchgear protection, some protection for the bars. These are just cheap ones. They're fully metal though. They go all the way around from the bars, all the way around to the edge, and plug into the end of the bar. I've used those on 3 sets of bikes, a Suzuki and 2 KTMs, and I've never ever suffered a broken lever. So I swear by them. Get yourself a set, and then you don't need to carry extra levers, and they work like a treat. Fantastic. Next up, rally grips. So they're foam rally grips. Now apparently they're not as good in the wet, and I do know, I have seen it, they do absorb a little bit of water. But they're so spongy, they just absorb loads of vibration, so you don't feel as fatigued at the end of the day. I've tried Pro Grip, 2 different types of rubber ones, but I settled on those, on the foam ones. They just seem to work the best. They're cheap, they're easy, recommended from me. Next, got electrics. So under here, as you're probably aware, is the battery. I'll run a single cable from an Optimate, generally, an Optimate cable from the battery all the way up, under the tank and to the handlebars. I keep the fuse for the Optimate in the side panel here in the airbox. So the only thing that can go wrong with my electrics is the fuse can blow and I can just pop this off, change the fuse, and the electrics on the bar work. On the bar I've got a splitter, so I can plug a USB charger into one and I can plug my GPS in the other, or I can have two USB chargers on there and just run the sat-nav on battery power. It's never failed, works like a charm, and I don't really want to complicate it by having USB chargers that are sat there all the time, always plugged in. It's just a cable, I use it whenever I need. Works like a treat. And then coming up to the top of the bars, and here we are, the top of the bars. I run a ram mount either side, because depending on the country I'm running on, I'll change the mirror to suit. On the other side, I'll put the GPS. Over here are the cables that I spoke about before. That's the splitter running both of the adapters for USB chargers or any other power requirements. Coming over to the throttle, you can probably just see that slip of red there. That's a throttle tamer. It makes the first 25% of the twist of the throttle not quite as severe, not quite as sharp as it used to be, and it really calms the bike down. Between the throttle tamer and the cush hub, it turns the bike into a really gentle adventurer, really good bike, makes a huge difference. Coming on to the frame, I modify the wiring loom. Any part of the wiring loom that comes into contact with the frame or is likely to suffer from some kind of friction rub, I coat with inner tube from a bicycle and I run that all the way down under the frame and make sure that everywhere that rubs is reinforced. And then finally, coming to the back of the bike, I do run a giant loop heat shield because it's not the first time that I've managed to melt my luggage to the bike. And there you have it, just a few simple mods that make the bike either easier to live with or make it a little bit more robust and less prone to damage like punctures when you're on the trail, so you can spend more time riding and less time fixing it.